Your next.
We're live now.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our webinar. This webinar will be hosted jointly by Initor Global and our partners at Capium. My name is Robert Grant, and I am the Head of Client Experience at Initor Global. I will be hosting the webinar with Cheyne, who's the Head of Product and Growth at Capium. We're also delighted to be joined by two accountants who have agreed to share their experiences as part of this webinar, Adam Gunnell and Andrew Osborne. Adam and Andrew will bring this webinar to life with some real-life examples from their day-to-day professional life. So welcome everyone, and a special welcome to Nick, Adam and Andrew. You will be aware the subject matter of our webinar is how accountants are overcoming the challenges of the current economic climate. The backdrop to our webinar is probably the most volatile economic situation facing the UK for a generation. Rising inflation, rising energy costs, as well as the resetting of the economy in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic present challenges many of us will never have faced as practicing accountants. We now have a new Prime Minister at number 10 and a new Cabinet and a new Chancellor. The focus of this new government seems to be on short-term tax cuts and support for households. Unsurprisingly, we await the longer-term tax strategy from the new government and the associated action we will need to take to support our clients. So over the next 45 minutes, you will hear some real-life examples of how accountants are overcoming these uncertainties, along with some suggestions on action you can take to address the associated risks. You will also hear from Nick and I about how Initor Global and Capium can support you through these turbulent times. Firstly, I would like to invite Nick to say a few words about himself and the work at Capium. So, moving on from the introductory slide, it's over to Nick Cheyne.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Hi, I think hopefully some of you may be familiar with me in some of the webinars that I've done already. But yeah, my name's Nick Cheyne. I lead product and growth at Capium. I've been here now for over 5 years. Feels like a lot longer. And in that time, I've joined when Capium was serving a few hundred customers to now close to 1,700. So it's been really interesting being part of this industry as it's grown to tackle making tax digital. And it's great to have Andrew on this webinar today. And I'm currently in the background trying to communicate to Adam to get him on the webinar as well. He's currently facing a bit of technical difficulties. But Capium, yeah, we're a pioneer of cloud-based accounting software. We are probably, I would say, the original cloud-based solution in the UK that offers an integrated practice suite. Okay, all of our tools have been designed to automate your practices processes and avoid duplication of data entry and meaningless tasks. Okay, so ultimately your practice become more profitable. You can save time and focus on growing your business. As I've mentioned, our mission really is to revolutionize the accountant's practice by giving them tools that can enable them to coordinate their workflows, collaborate with their clients, and just manage their time. As I said, our goal really is to provide affordable tax software, cloud-based tax software that can allow the accountant to work from anywhere around the world, making most of benefits such as outsourcing to really help elevate their practice and help them realize their goals, be it growing their business or spending more time on the golf course. We are an integrated suite, and as you can see by the little ecosystem on the screen, we offer everything from bookkeeping to payroll, accounts production, self-assessment, tax returns, practice management, and company secretarial. So that's really our product offering. And if you have any questions after this webinar about what Capium can do, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you, Nick. And just to say to everyone who's online at the moment, If you have any questions, you can slot them into the right-hand side of the webinar, and we'll do our best to pick those up as we go along. So feel free to ask any questions from any of the presenters, or if you want to make a general comment about things you're saying, that's absolutely fine. So just a little bit about me. As you can see, most of my career has been in traditional practice with a focus on audit. However, over the last 7 years, I was actually head of accounting at one of the UK's largest online accountants. Some of you may have heard of Crunch. Now, Crunch was a bit of a pioneer back in the day, introducing subscription-based fee models and fixed monthly payments with self-serve accounting software, unlimited support and advice. So Crunch's target market really was freelancers, contractors and small businesses. And these were the areas of the economy most severely hit by the recent pandemic. Now, I mention these things because we had to be extremely agile and react quickly to situations. We adjusted our business models and the fee structures to help our clients. And I'm sure a lot of that resonates with some of the people in the webinar today. So really, it's just to reassure you that I have first-hand experience of running an accounting practice during a period of significant uncertainty. Of course, that continues to the present day. Of course, I'm now head of customer experience at Initor Global, and I'm putting my experience to some good use. So a little about Initor Global. We were established in 2006, so we've got quite a strong presence in the outsourcing market. We've achieved year-on-year growth in the UK over the last 10 years, and we have clients across the UK and in 20 other countries. So we have a bit of a global presence. Just to reassure you about Initor Global, we have a team of qualified accountants and other finance professionals such as bookkeepers, payroll experts, that sort of thing. And they're all working remotely offshore to deliver our services to clients. Our offshore team is supported by our London office, so we do have a UK presence as well. So our key market is providing services to all sizes of accountancy practices and other businesses looking to outsource their day-to-day work. We also enable our clients to build capacity and free up resources to grow their businesses. Or as Nick says, spend more time on the golf course. I'm going to say a little bit about the sort of values of Initor Global, just to chime with some of the information that Nick provided about Capium. As you would expect, our vision is to be recognised by the industry and our clients for our excellent services. We're continually adapting our technologies to meet the needs of our customers, and as you would expect, our core values reflect those of our profession. And just a little bit about the services we do provide. You see that we have the digital bookkeeping, year-end accounts, statutory accounts, that sort of thing, payroll, taxation, company and personal, VAT and company secretarial services as well. And we cover a range of parts of the sector: LLPs, limited company accountants, sole traders, contractors and freelancers as well. Many of you, of course, are on this webinar and you will recognise yourselves in that sector. So we move on to the themes for the day. So the overarching theme is how our accountants overcoming the challenges of the current economic climate. But some of the themes we'll look to pick out are, firstly, how well placed do you feel your accountancy business is to thrive in the current economic climate? Does it provide risks, opportunities? What are you doing to adapt? And what are the detailed risks and challenges you're facing on a day-to-day basis? I'll certainly bring my own personal experiences into this, but we do want to hear from you as well. And finally, everything needs to be seen through the prism of recovery from the pandemic. And we're really interested in some experiences of how your practices are working through the pandemic and how that's helped shape your future plans. So there's 5 questions we're going to cover today. And I'm going to invite probably, I think, Andrew, if you don't mind contributing to this. As an accountant, Andrew, what do you make of the current economic climate and through the prism of your own business?
Well, I think we're in a position at the moment where you can't always recruit the right people and the best people because they're either gainfully employed somewhere else or that you can't actually find the people with the experience. And that's one of the issues that some, especially small businesses, are finding. And I've actually experienced that recently. Either people don't have, are job hopping so much that they don't have, that they're not really worthwhile employing, or they don't have enough experience or even too much experience. And that can have an effect on a company not employing the right people, or even getting the right people to be in the job, because that can be inefficient. So I think that's an aspect of it, as well as, of course, if you're something like a restaurant. Couple of restaurants I have, they're obviously their fuel bills are going through the roof, and that's an existential threat to them, in order to keep going. And it doesn't matter whether they're a successful restaurant. I've got one restaurant that says we're meeting our targets with respect to sales and getting people through the doors, but it's the cost of the fuel, the gas and electricity in particular, that's actually going to threaten their very livelihoods. So I think those are sort of like, I mean, it's sort of two ends of the spectrum. You can't find the right people to actually to recruit sometimes, and you've got increasing costs at the same time. So it's kind of a double whammy. So those are sort of the two major things that I'm experiencing amongst my clients in particular. And it spans quite a lot of all the trades. I have electricians who can't find electricians, for example, as well. So it's not sort of just one industry aspect either.
Andrew, could I just pick up on a few points there? Would you say that your clients are holding off hiring new staff because of, the current economic climate, and waiting to see which support is coming from, the government, or they want to recruit staff, and due to wage pressures, due to a shortage of talent, they're unable to, which is inhibiting their growth?
Yeah.
Which is it, just from your experience?
I think it's probably a hybrid of all of it, actually. More in particular, trying to find the talent and pay, and not necessarily not being able to pay them, but trying to find it. Electricians particularly I've found that have had that problem. And even in the restaurants, finding the appropriate staff to be able to, waiting staff as well. So I think that ask me in a few months' time, and it might be a completely different answer, in that, we can't actually employ anyone because we've got to either keep what we've got and manage the wage bill and the increasing costs, particularly in a restaurant, or reducing the wage bill by redundancy. So at the moment, we're on this cusp, or on the edge of, it might go one way or the other. And I think maybe people will start. I know one company has really reduced their costs anyway, naturally, and that's without actually looking at their wage bill. But maybe in a few months' time, that might be different. And even next April, if the energy cap, well, for businesses, there is no energy cap. There's no cap on prices. So it could spiral. But it depends what is announced today for small businesses, if there is anything for small businesses being announced today with respect to energy costs.
Andrew, are you seeing the climate that we find ourselves in at the moment driving demand for different services from your clients? Certainly in my practice, I've seen more requests for help with cash flow forecasting, deferring tax, negotiating with HMRC to postpone tax payments. Now, that there was certainly an opportunity for my practice at the time to help clients, although the flip side of that was we've found ourselves giving away those services for nothing because the clients weren't able to pay for them, frankly. Are you seeing any sort of angle of that nature?
There is that kind of angle. I mean, I've done a few things here over the last 2 years. in that I've tried to automate some of my bookkeeping systems, and with a big plug to Nick, I've actually I'm about 2.5 years old with Capium, and I know we both smile at whatever I say, but there is a serious side. It has had a knock-on effect to make me more efficient with my clients. Now, that means I have more time that I can give to my clients to talk to them, because one of the things, as Nick knows, and I've said this in previous webinars, is that I place a lot of store in communicating with my clients in whatever way. Now, it's not just through WhatsApp or text messages, because they send me too many text messages. I'll actually go and pick up the phone and actually talk to them. But if I want to know what their problems are, such as say with HMRC, and yes, I will deal with HMRC, and I may say, okay, you've got a problem, I won't charge for that time. However, if there is any additional time on forecasting on all of that, and it does take me a bit of time to do it, which it does, then I do charge for it. But what I do is I try and give them leeway in the payment of those fees, rather than sort of like whack them with one bill and they have to pay in 30 days. So I try and say, okay, you've got a bit, try and help them, because it helps my cash flow, helps their cash flow. Yeah. And that's what I do. And yes, I communicate with them and I see what their problems are, if they have any, and what I can do to solve them. Yeah. But the crux is to always communicate with clients, as many as you can, bearing in mind you've got to go and do the work yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think you've just brought us on to the second question, really, about some of the immediate challenges. Now, you've touched on, from the practice point of view, cash is king as far as you're getting your fee into the business goes. I mean, have you had much from clients saying, look, I can't pay this month, I'm going to postpone it? And have you culled any of your clients, quite brutally, saying, look, you're just no longer sustainable for my practice, I'm going to have to let you go and just focus on the clients that are cash generators?
Actually, I've been very lucky. I bucked the trend. I haven't actually culled anyone. And I've been very lucky in that they have all paid and are up to date on a monthly basis, believe it or not. Now, how that will change in a few months' time is another matter. But I've been very lucky in that way. And because that's not to say they haven't had cash flow problems. And because if they have had problems and they still paid me, then I think that I have not a duty, but because they've had faith in me and they've paid me, I have something to give back to them, even if it's just a bit more time I give to them free.
Can I quickly just ask a question to Andrew and Robert? How do your clients pay you? Are they on a monthly retainer, or is it like an upfront fee?
Yeah.
So okay, I was just wondering, maybe you could give some tips for the accountants, to ensure they do get paid.
What I do is it's agreed at the beginning of the engagement. Then, if during the year I manage or see how much time is spent, then if I feel that the business is growing, then their fees grow as well. If the business is still the same, then they get a cost of living increase, because you've got to keep the fees growing with inflation. You can't sort of just leave it for 10 years and think that, because if, let's say, just pick a fee of £200 a month and you set that 10 years ago, it's not £200 today.
Sure.
And so you have to keep it growing, but at the same time you have to be mindful of the fact of what services you're providing as well, and whether it provides value for money. I think that's probably all I've got to say on that.
I was just going to fold in Adam. Thank you for joining us, Adam. I'm sorry that you faced some technical difficulties. We're just talking about how, just quickly, how clients, how you charge clients. Are they on a monthly retainer with you, or is it upfront costs? So how do you keep your cash flow going, during these kind of uncertain times?
Firstly, good morning, everybody, and apologies for the issues there. Glad to be with you all today. To your question, we charge monthly in advance on the first of every month for every client. So if we don't get paid by the third of the month, we know there's a challenge. It's as simple as that, So credit control is king in all businesses, of course, and not least our own.
Yeah, I think the fee subscription model is now pretty much normalised. And certainly small businesses expect it. And sometimes difficult conversations with clients when you want to charge them more for maybe some special tax advice or preparing annual returns, taxes, that sort of thing. But hitting on Andrew's theme that communication is key on this. As long as you're upfront about what your monthly subscription includes, then those conversations about additional fees can follow on, quite comfortably. But it's being transparent from the outset and no surprises. That's the important thing for clients. They don't want to be hit with a big bill that they were not expecting. Okay.
I completely agree, and I think the key to that is the tool you use to make sure that you're constantly able to evaluate and update your clients in terms of the services you provide them or what you're charging for them as well.
Yeah. And we'll just go back a step, Adam. We spent a bit of time, talking about, how the current economic climate is influencing your approach at the moment. Any thoughts from your side? What have you noticed that's a bit different, or what are the immediate challenges for you?
Nothing's massively different yet, but I think we can all see, the clouds on the horizon. So, hence this conversation in the first place, perhaps. Nothing's really come home to roost in a hard sense, but the sort of conversations I'm having with my clients are obviously energy related. I've got relative bias towards the hospital, not completely, but I've got quite a strong hospitality portfolio. So of course they're feeling the pinch from both sides, because of course their clients are feeling the pinch and therefore aren't going out as much. So there's a testing of business model going on there in terms of some of the newer ones, particularly about where are their businesses, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And as I go way back to the venture days and the .com days, and I was told then in a strong wind even a turkey can fly, and by that you mean poor business models will always be poor. Favourable market conditions can overcompensate for that. So I think this is when these are the times when you see who is strong, both in terms of the business model and also the operator behind the business model.
Yeah.
And I think the conversations I'm having are with the better guys, because they're the ones that are seeing it sooner.
Yeah.
Are anticipating more.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Well, it depends, doesn't it? But at the moment, nothing hard has come home to roost yet. But I think we can all see the warning signs.
Could I quickly just ask a question? Are you finding that your clients are being proactive in asking for help? This is to everyone. Or are you, as the accountants, being proactive to advise your clients on, potential cash flow squeeze points, or, avoiding maybe hiring staff, or maybe not making a purchase? How's that balance?
From my side, both. As I said, the more proactive clients are coming to me, and the ones I know are going to bury their heads in the sand, I'm going to them.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, not seeing any questions coming through, so don't be shy. Those of you who are online, we're happy to pick up any questions from you. And we move on to our third question, and I think we've covered a lot of the risks, in our conversations to date. But with risk comes opportunity, and just a sort of personal anecdote here. In the early days of the pandemic, there was so little guidance out there for people who are seeking furlough payments, or maybe seeking loans from the government, that sort of thing. And it was really a chance for Crunch at that time to demonstrate its expertise. We spent a lot of time putting out content, sometimes overnight, in the light of the government's usually Friday evening exaltations about what was going to happen. And there's a real chance for us to put stuff out there for free. We attracted a number of clients who were seeking advice on what they should do because they'd sort of ground to a halt with sort of government information and even their own accountant at times. So with these difficult climates and difficult political situations as well, you often find opportunities. And I guess throwing that back to Andrew, are you seeing any sort of opportunities to demonstrate your expertise coming out of some of these headwinds?
I think people first of all, they want to take control of their own bookkeeping and be a bit more in control sometimes. And they then want to see an up-to-date view of their own finances. And that's what I'm trying to I kind of see myself as a bit of a teacher or a headmaster in some ways, teaching my flock about the finances of my clients' businesses, principally because so many people, they go into business and they don't really know what's going on in their own business financially. So I think one of the things I've taken out of COVID and the pandemic is that I've got clients to start looking into their numbers a lot more. And I don't necessarily want them to become accountants, God forbid, there's enough of us already. But it is important for them to understand where they are and where they're going to go, and to actually pinpoint the issues that they may have, so that I, as an accountant, and if you want that's an opportunity to help them out of any risk that there might be, or to mitigate the risks of what they're doing, and to create a strategy for getting out of the mire that they might be in, or if they're doing well, how they can then expand. And so, in fact, that's kind of the strategy for myself as a practice. I don't want to be doing lots of admin for my clients, and if that can be all automated and the cost of that is reduced, but then I'm providing more value for money to my clients in terms of strategy, in terms of raising finance, or getting them out, or dealing with HMRC, or whatever it is, tax compliance and so forth, and tax planning, then I'd rather be doing that and helping my clients, and I'm trying to do more of that and then improve on that for my clients, rather than doing the bog standard, we've got to do a set of statutory accounts and so forth and all of that, and make sure that's done efficiently, so that you've got the numbers there in real time to be able to explain to the clients what it is, what's actually happening, and where they're going, and then they can understand a lot more and have a more meaningful conversation.
And Adam, with many hospitality clients, I'm guessing the pandemic, furlough, all that sort of thing, a few sleepless nights for you and your clients, I guess.
Well, it was challenging for everybody, of course, because no one really knew until you knew. So, yeah, it was challenging. I think a lot of the hospitality stuff actually come on since furlough, believe it or not. So I think what we found, it was more post-COVID, where the stronger outfits have decided that they really want to be better prepared and more knowledgeable, and that plays to our business model and our marketing as a practice. So I think we've, just to add to previous comments there, I find my clients want to know more. They really do want to know more, and I guess part of that is self-fulfilling, because that's what I sell them, is the ability to know more, and to be more clued up about where they're going, and to be more proactive. So I think in some ways I'm probably talking in a bit of an echo chamber, because I promote myself to fast-growing clients, and fast-growing clients are entrepreneurial and want to know more information. So I kind of feed off of all of that stuff. So if anything, I've probably subconsciously whittled out some of the less capable business people in my portfolio, because they're just harder to work with for less money, to be very brutal about it.
That's a very polite way of putting it.
It's probably not the only way I put it, but for this conversation, let's just leave it there. But I mean, opportunities though going forwards, I would say that again, old rules would say that more business changes hands in a recession than not. And I think if we are as an industry got our eyes and ears open as to what we want in terms of our client base and what we're prepared to offer them, I think there's going to be ample opportunity because people will be looking for a change to help them get through, even if it's perceived change rather than actual change. And I think if you're there offering the right messaging and the right tool sets and the right connectivity in terms of communication with people, I think there's a huge opportunity to be had in the next 48 months.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, again, we're now moving on to the next question around the Great Reset and what it means for economies and industries. And we know the impact will be felt for many years to come. But this really has been quite a unique opportunity to look at the way we work in terms of automation and upskilling staff. Maybe more difficult for the smaller single-handed practices to achieve. But again, just picking up, Andrew, and your work with Capium particularly. I mean, how have you felt that sort of looking through the lens of changing ways of working and so on?
If I just go back one slight step before Capium, I was doing everything on sort of like different software. I might have different software for payroll, for bookkeeping, for statutory accounts. And at the same time, I wanted something that I wanted to do online where I could do it anywhere. And since I go to Southeast Asia for a bit, I'd like to do it on a beach with a cocktail in my hand. And that when I came across the Capium, transferring everything to Capium into one piece of software that does everything was actually not stressful at all. And it was actually very easy. Now, which meant during the pandemic, I couldn't go abroad and have a cocktail on a beach, but it means now I can, because also you can automate things. And as Nick's heard me say before, there is one thing on the payroll that actually automates the payrolls, all automated and goes out automatically, providing it's the same every month. And so you can actually cut down your work on the payroll, for example, and do something else. And because you've got the bookkeeping element, which feeds into the statutory accounts and the corporation tax, because of the fluidity, because it's so smooth, you can actually do things very fast without losing the quality of the work. And that's very important as well. And because you have done it that quickly, you can actually, obviously, because you cut down on the time that you're doing it, but you can give more advice somewhere else. And that doesn't mean to say because you do something in less time, you cut your fees. You either maintain your fees or increase them because you're actually giving more value for money. So now that I've got everything online and I don't need an office, I have thought about getting an office, and every time I do, I say no, I don't need it. I do have someone that actually does work for me and do some bits and pieces, and she's actually going to come on board. In fact, she's going to be my first employee in January. So she will be taking calls and things like that, but she'll be working from home. So I'm pretty much a virtual accountant. My next stage after that was, instead of me doing the statutory accounts, which is what I do at the moment, and the compliance, I want to outsource that as well, because that will make me a lot more efficient in the way that I provide services to my client. And again, I'll have more time to spend on my clients to be able to give them the advice, compliance and planning that they actually need, and to sort of look at clients that actually don't even really communicate with me as much as they should do, as much as they should really do so. So I can actually be much more freer, and once everything is automated. And of course, it means that I don't have the costs of maybe a bigger firm of accountants that has 2 or 3 offices in a building or whatever. I can keep my costs down, at the same time, my fees are at a certain level that are still competitive to everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, Adam, again, have you looked closely at some of your ways of working? I'm not sure how many accountants you have working with you, but has that led to any changes at your end?
It's not changes. I came into this industry relatively late. I retrained as an accountant at 40 years old. So I have a previous experience of being a headhunter and running my own business, doing that for many years. So I come from a very commercial business development kind of a background before retraining in the profession. And as I came into the profession, cloud just was already here. So everything that is cloud, and I started working with my father who lives overseas, and so we already were looking for tools that we could share and collaborate with. And bit by bit, it just became very obvious I needed an online suite. And Capium was an obvious choice. I was walking around Accountex, literally with a shopping basket, essentially trying to tool up for what I needed to do. And I knew a few people from various bits and bobs, talked around, got recommended, walked around the stands, did all the usual things. And interestingly, when I went back just last gone, all of my providers were in the same 10 square yards, which was really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we've always been virtual. I use Initor extensively. They are the platform upon which I run my business. Quite deliberately, I've structured things so the numbers get crunched somewhere else, and me and my staff in the UK have time and energy and desire to speak with our clients on a daily basis. Okay. Because I'm an ex-headhunter, perhaps I look at the world a bit different. I'm all about communication. I see us actually as middlemen of information rather than a provider of accounting services. And that subtle twist in things just changes the way we operate. So I extol the virtues to my clients of the outsourcing model. I don't hide it. I present it. I literally trumpet it, and that's underpinned by all the cloud tools that I use. And Capium is chief among those things. And Initor were great about adopting it straight away, seamlessly. Just went, yep, no problem. We'll learn this. Yeah. And so as a result of that, we've grown 40% this year. And it was 70% growth in lockdown, believe it or not. A lot of that went away because it was a lot of sort of COVID startups that sort of came and went and again. But in the subsequent sort of 2 years, perhaps, it's been a lot more solid, decent businesses coming on board, and we've now got the platform in place to really step it up. It's all about infrastructure and process to be able to deliver those things properly and consistently in a meaningful way. Otherwise it's just gobbledygook, isn't it? So. Yeah,
interesting point you make, because many in the accounting industry were very suspicious of the sort of cloud accounting approach and clients being able to self-serve and then only coming in at certain times of year to help clients maybe with their statutory accounts or with their tax. But it's very much mainstream now. Everything's in the cloud, and it makes us more efficient, frankly. You can work from anywhere. You don't need a solid premises or anything like that. So I think in terms of new ways of working, that was probably already there, and it enabled us to work through the pandemic from anywhere. And again, from personal experiences, my practice went from having a big office space in Brighton for 200 staff. We now, I've left them now, but we've channeled it down to a couple of co-working spaces with everyone else working from home. And that's what people wanted. They wanted that work-life balance. They wanted to know that they could, start the weekends early rather than the commute from Brighton to home and that sort of thing. So I think if the pandemic and an examination of the ways you work, it can have positive impacts on the well-being of your workers. And that seems to be the way to go. Deliver what your people want within an accounting practice, and you'll get them to hang around longer than you may think. And we actually have a question from Darryl around how we should be setting fees. He feels that his clients seem to want more for paying less. And I think, Darryl, automate as much as you can. That would be my first piece of advice. Get your clients self-serving if they have their own zero account, that sort of thing. Get them to do a lot for themselves, and also think about the margin that you want to achieve and see how that compares to the market. And that means, networking, talking to other practices and practitioners. You will find that most accountants are pretty open about how they set the fees and those clients that are not profitable for them and what they should do with them. So that would be my advice around setting your fees and so on. Okay, we come to our final questions, and this has been a bit of a thread around how you're building resilience and capacity. Andrew, you picked up some issues about sort of retaining and recruiting people, and it is brilliant that you're now on the cusp of appointing your first sort of full-time employee. But what were your sort of thoughts around when did you think I really need someone else to help me here, and how did you set about getting the right person?
Right. Okay. Because I was getting to the point where I was not having enough capacity. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I wouldn't want my work-life balance to be compromised in any way because I do other things. So I wanted over the last few months. In fact, the person I'm actually employing in January is somebody that's known to me anyway. First of all, from networking. So I was very lucky in that respect. So I already knew them. And secondly, they'd run their own business anyway and knew how to do bookkeeping. So there is, so they already knew about business. And so in some ways, I've kind of cut short of actually going into the market and advertising for a particular job because there was always someone there in the background ready for me. So I've been very lucky in that respect. I think for me, going forward, it will be more about doing the more sort of like the accounting work and the compliance and all of that. That's what I will be outsourcing out, which is why I've started to use Initor Global in terms of outsourcing. I've started off with the bookkeeping so far with a particular client, and then it's going to expand further along into sort of more technical aspects of doing my job, so that it releases me from actually doing things basically, because I want to be able to work on the business, not necessarily in the business, and that's going to be very important over the next few months and how I then progress. So for me, it's not going to be about putting bums on seats in an office or anything like that to get the work done. It will be, because I am literally virtual now, it will be other people doing the work wherever they are. Yeah. That's actually going to be able to help me, and that's how I will then progress.
Yeah, and Adam, it's interesting that you're by your own admission quite a late entrant to the industry. Accountants are notoriously conservative with a small c in the way they look at things. That they're resistant to change, and if we did it that way last year, it's got to be the right way to do it. And certainly in my practice, I've found having an open mind towards things like outsourcing some of the more compliance-based work was a real help with efficiency. It also helped to free up capacity, and it also built resilience because the practice I was involved in, we had about 10,000 clients. We would do about 6,000 self-assessment tax returns. So you could see the severe peak in workload that we would have to deal with. And outsourcing was a great solution for that, and so was automation. But bringing your sort of your business development headhunting eye on the industry, I mean, what do you make of it as a newcomer?
The industry generally, or
well, from your perspective in the industry generally, but you must have thought, my goodness, these guys are still in the 1970s.
Yes, and my father was an accountant. I'm not completely unfamiliar with the industry, I guess, because he joined as a T-boy and left as a managing partner. So he had a real kind of upward trajectory in his career, and as such was always very much a people person. The reason that made him stand out was he had personality, and he wasn't your classic accountant, and neither am I, in whatever a classic accountant is deemed to be. I guess my timing was fortuitous in that the tools were there, but I guess my outlook remains the same. I going back to what Andrew said, we should all work on our businesses rather than in our businesses. If we want to be more than just a sole practitioner, and there's nothing wrong with being a sole practitioner, it's very rewarding work and nothing wrong with it at all. But if you want to be more than that, you need to be different, don't you? You need to act differently, and your behaviours need to be different. And for that, you need support. You can't do it all on your own. And there's too much to learn. There's too much to do, and that's why I found outsourcing absolutely invaluable. It's the first thing I did. I outsourced before I hired anybody full time, and then once that got full out, then I started hiring people in the UK, and then the model will be to pyramid back onto the outsourcers. I've tried various different providers. They all have slightly different nuances, as we all do, but you make trusting relationships, don't you? And that's what it boils down to. And then what I'm finding now is, whilst we started virtually, and fundamentally we are virtual, I can see a time when I will go and seek I say office, but a hub, somewhere around which the heartbeat of the business needs to live. And I think that'll be more to do with marketing and operations than it is particularly to do with the delivery of the service. But I just think you need that exchange of ideas, and especially if you want to bring youth into the picture. I'm a strong believer of, you won't get talent to come and sit with you if it's sitting in its bedroom on a laptop all day long. You need to be together at least some of the time. And I think that's really, really important, because otherwise you won't know until they've gone that they were unhappy, or they weren't being fulfilled, or that you weren't maximising your investment in them.
Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and it also helps people who are rising the career ladder. They will pick up really good habits from having good people around them. That's always been my philosophy throughout my career. You pick up good examples, and also you realise there are better ways of doing things. Again, putting it politely, some people are not as strong on the people side as others. Okay, so we move towards our concluding remarks. So I think the first question about how are we all feeling about future growth, profitability and resilience, and I think remarkably positive, I think, based on some of the comments today. There's no doubt we've come through some very turbulent times, but I think people are feeling genuinely optimistic about what the future holds in the profession, and more importantly, how we can help our clients through these difficult times. We've learnt some very good lessons through the pandemic about how to engage our clients and look at more closely about what their priorities are, and also how to make ourselves more efficient as an accountant ourselves. And I think on the second question, it's clear that among the group we have today, outsourcing is normal. If you've got compliance-based work that you don't need to spend too much time on yourself, don't forget about it, but get someone else to do it. And I really chimed with Andrew's comment. He doesn't want to spend too much time in the business, but more time on the business. And I think certainly outsourcing, remote working, automation can certainly all help with that agenda, and certainly make us more fulfilled as professionals, I think, is a way to put it nowadays. In terms of Initor Global and our outsourcing office offering, I did mention we've been around for quite a long time, since 2006, and we have a truly remote workforce of qualified accountants and other experts who can certainly provide the quality of services that you need to take your practice forward. And just to rest assured that Initor Global, we do use the most secure technologies. GDPR and ISO compliance is front and centre of the work that we do, and we've been very successful helping businesses reduce risk, reduce operating costs, typically 50% less to outsource than do it yourself, increasing your efficiency and your margins, close to all of our hearts. That's why we're here, after all. And importantly, improving client satisfaction, because turnaround times can improve, and you can drive up your own quality standards as well, leaving you time to spend on your business. Just a couple of contact details. If you need to arrange any discussions, there's some contact details there. There's a website, telephone number. And just a reminder, anyone attending today's webinar, you can get a 10% discount on your fees for the first year. I'm Robert Grant, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to make connections on a daily basis. Nick, I know you wanted to say a few words in conclusion, so I'll let you close the webinar if that's all right. So it's over to you, Nick.
Yeah, brilliant. I thought there was some great insight shared by the panelists. And I think, just for the audience out there, this is just the first of many kind of future collaborations between Capium and Initor, tackling subjects that are kind of rearing their head in the accounting industry. I would like to thank you all for joining this panel today. Great to see you, Andrew and Adam and Robert. The recording will be shared afterwards. So if you could only hear bits and bobs of it, or you just want to re-listen to some of the advice, it will be shared afterwards. And also there may be some future events being hosted by Capium and Initor in the not too distant future as well. So please keep your eyes and ears peeled for that in the future. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. Liz Truss has just announced energy support for everyone. And businesses as well for the next 6 months. So I'm sure we all want to digest that and see how that impacts themselves as well as their clients. So yeah, thank you all for joining with us today. Thank you, Robert. Great job. Great to see you all again, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. You're all free to leave. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.